Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me. This is Ciara from Ciara T Designs, and today I have this fun traveler's notebook to share with you. So let's jump right in. So I'm going to cut down my paper as always. I have a piece of stone paper here, and I'm going to leave it the height that it is, but we're going to cut down the length to be 9 inches. So ideally your paper would be 9 by 8.5. However, it's an A4 size, so it's more like 8.25 than 8.5. So it works out to be about 9 by 8.25. And then I'm also going to cut down some tea stained paper that I made a while back to 8 by 8 because we're going to be using an 8 by 8 paper pad. And now this tutorial is kind of a riff off of a tutorial I did back in August, I believe, and a video Vicky Papineau recently did. I almost called her Nikki. I don't know why. You guys know, if you've been with my channel for any length of time, she is a huge inspiration to me. And she recently did a traveler's notebook with staples instead of sewing. And I wanted to teach a class locally because I teach at my local scrapbooking store. And I really wanted to do a traveler's notebook. And I was going to do it based on the ones that I had done previously. I think it was back in August. I'll link that video if you guys want to check it out, because we do a pamphlet stitch in that one instead of stapling. But I know some people don't enjoy the sewing, and some people don't have the dexterity. And I was just trying to find a easier way for people to kind of do this project that didn't rely on being able to sew. And Vicky comes to the save again. She had this cool stapler, so of course I was super inspired. I had to go and grab it. I will link her video in the description. You can go and check her out. I would be shocked if you haven't seen multiple of her videos, because I think that she's one of the most talented people in our industry. But yes, so I have her video linked. Go check it out. But so that is why I'm creating this one. So we're kind of doing like a riff off of the one we did in the past and a version that has just some differences to it. So I have the Dewdrops 8x8 paper pad here. I've been holding on to this for quite a while. This came out, I believe, like mid to end of last year. You probably can't get it anymore, but any 8x8 paper pad would work here. Now, I've separated all the fussy cuts, and I've set aside one page I want to use in the cover of our journal. So here I'm scoring the stone paper. You can see me score that at, I believe it was 8.25. And then I'm going to score all of my pages at 4 because they are 8. So, 4 is the middle point. And this is because we're going to create signatures. So signatures is really just a grouping of papers. If you've done any kind of bookbinding, you'll be pretty familiar with that. But so we're going to create 2 signatures so that they can go into the traveler's notebook, then get held in by an elastic. And you can create so many of these. And I decided to bring in tea-dyed paper. Don't ask me why. I think honestly it was because I was trying to create a project that I didn't feel like I was, I don't know if this is the right word, ruining by practicing. So I had 2 of this 8x8 paper pad, and I have the 12x12 in this paper pad because I loved it so much. And so I felt like if I just brought in some of my tea stained paper, I wouldn't feel bad practicing things on top of it. I hope that kind of makes sense, because sometimes when you create a beautiful book, you're like, well, now I can't use it because it's beautiful, right? So I kind of wanted to bring in something that's a little tatty, a little distressed, a little stained, and then I don't feel as much like I'm ruining is the wrong word, but practicing on it. So I hear because of my tea stained paper, it is a little bit delicate, fragile. So when I was scoring that one sheet, I ripped it. So I just added a piece of my favorite washi tape to kind of hide that. And then I don't have to worry about you being able to see the rip, or having that once I staple it, like rip more when I open and close the book. So I kind of went to that direction just because I felt like, you could remove that piece and use a different piece if you didn't want to do what I just did. But again, I'm trying to create a book that I feel happy practicing in, because I would like to work on my collage skills. I think, like everything, practice, makes progress. And I feel like my collage, I'm a little heavy-handed. I'm not great at leaving open space. I'm not great at, kind of like editing myself. So I did end up kind of changing up how I was kind of working in this book. Because usually I would use, two really beautiful pattern papers, and then I don't want to work on top of them. So I kind of hope that putting in this tea stain paper would kind of help that. So you can see I'm just stapling the inside. Well, I'm stapling to the outside, but I'm stapling these signatures together so they easily can just slip into the book now. So I had a lot of fun doing that. And it was really, really simple too. You can sew, like I said, I have a video doing the sewing. So does Vicky. But the stapling was just way, way faster and easier, honestly, way more straightforward. So I think that may be one of my methods going forward, especially when I'm making books just to practice with. Cause yeah, I want to get better at my collage skills, because I don't know, I love how people can bring all these like little ephemera bits and they create these really neat collages, and I feel like it's a skill I want to work on. So one of these books is kind of perfect for that, because it's just tea stain paper and a paper pad that I had quite a bit of. And I think that you could do this with any 8x8 paper you have in your stash. I specifically picked Dewdrops because I booked my class around that paper, but you could use any paper for that. You don't even have to use pattern paper. Go in with tea-dyed paper, or, colored paper, or, whatever paper you have on hand that you have too much of. Create some inserts, and there you go. And then the stone paper is just really strong, so I feel like it lends itself really well towards a cover, just because it doesn't rip. So, I mean, you can cut it, but you can't rip it. So I just find it to be really great for the strength of a cover. And then you can just change out the inserts consistently. I brought in a piece of rice paper to cover my stone paper cover. I only have one. So I'm only covering the outside of my cover with it. I'm going to use that piece that we set aside to cover the inside. And you'll see that here in just a second. And I did score my cover. And then you can kind of see that I'm trying to kind of round it a little bit for where the inserts are going to sit, because it's not going to be flat when we put those inserts inside. So I've cut this piece down to that same 4 inches, and I'm going to adhere it mostly to the edge. I want to leave my spine fairly open, because again, I thought about adding that piece of leftover rice paper, but I opted not to in the end. Because I don't know, I might add pockets. See, I'm not decorating this because the class is building a structure, not decorating the structure. I didn't want to add any decorations, but in my head, I'm like, oh, it'd be really cool to add some pockets on the covers, on the inside of the covers. And I would love to have like a fabric dangle on the outside. But the class is to teach the structure of it, and then you can go as wild as you want to go. And I had so much fun with that. So I just adhered those 2 pieces on the inside, and then I'm going to measure a 1/4 of an inch away from the spine, and that's where I'm going to kind of go in with my We Are Memory Keepers, the Crop-A-Dial, I'm pretty sure, and I'm going to poke my holes for my elastics. Now again, you can use an awl, you can use a pokey tool, whatever you have on hand. You just need a hole that the elastic can fit through. This just looks cleaner. That's all. And I have one, so I'm going to bust it out. I'm getting really into making books, so don't be surprised if you see more journal projects show up. We're still going to have loads of cards. The cards aren't going anywhere. But I'm thinking I might start doing like every Monday will be a card project, and then maybe Thursdays we're going to be different projects. Sometimes journals, sometimes, just different things, because it gives me something fun to do that's kind of different. And then you saw me, I'm just going to thread my elastic here. I didn't know how much length I needed, so I didn't take it off of the whole, well, it was like a roll before I started this, but I didn't take it off the roll. And then I've now measured it into the 2 holes. So I went in the bottom right hole to the bottom left hole, then up to the top, went through the 2 top holes, and then I end on the inside. And then I'm just going to kind of play with my tension here because I don't know until I stick everything together how much tension I need. So that's why I have such long tails. And then I'm going to stick my 2 books in, my 2 signatures. And then that kind of gives me an idea of how much tension I need. And then I will trim down the excess of that. Like it's an elastic cord. As always, everything I've used is linked and listed down below, unless it's a paper you cannot get anymore. Like I don't think you can get Dewdrops because like I said, it was a release. Like it might have been not a year ago because it wasn't winter, but it was a little while ago. And then I used my Crop-A-Dial to poke a slightly bigger hole in the center of the cover, this is what's going to hold the cover closed, right? So, and again, I left the tails because I don't know how much tension I need. And this is one where you want to leave the tails because as it gets bigger, as you work in it, as it, it gets kind of thicker, you want to have that extra space, but you don't want it right now. So you can see I've still got both of my pieces. I'm going to go back and forth until I'm happy with how like tight it sits against the cover. Like, because right now I want it to stay closed nicely. And then I'm going to leave a fairly long tail, tie a decently large knot in it. Don't glue the knot or anything though, because this is the easiest way to make it larger later. So like if you fill it up and it's really thick, you can now make those tails shorter and have a longer elastic to hold it closed. So just keep that in mind. So I sometimes glue my knots, especially on bound books. Like when I sew them, I will glue my knots. I didn't in this instance, but that's just because I want to be able to alter the knots in this. And I wasn't really worried about the knot that holds the signature inside. That doesn't really matter. And then the great thing about this is once you've filled a signature, you can pull it out and put a new one in, so it's just kind of a fun, I don't know. I'm hoping that this is going to become a practice book for me. And I'll just kind of have a play in it. I don't feel the need to record it. And then if I do something kind of neat, I'll show it to you guys. Maybe not the process of doing it, but I could do like a short of looking at the page. And if there's a lot of interest, then I could do a video of a page similar, something like that. But it's just kind of going to be a playbook. And then I have an O-ring. I guess it's an O-ring. I was going to call it an eyelet. It's not an eyelet. I have an O-ring and I've added just this really cute little flower charm on it. You can do loads of things here. Vicky did an anchor charm on hers, which is super cute. But I just did a simple flower charm. And then I'm just going to show you how it turned out. I love it. I'm really excited to have a play in it. I don't get to play until after the class, of course, because this project is currently sitting in the store to be looked at. But my class is fully booked, so that was pretty exciting. It's my first class this year, just because I was sick and then I had to do some traveling, and yeah, so I'm really excited to teach the class. But this is the project. I am so in love with it. If you guys haven't seen Vicky or you haven't seen her video yet, go and check her out. She is, like I said, she's one of my favorite creators. She has phenomenal ideas and she always inspires me. So I have a lot of fun watching all of her content. But yeah, so thank you guys so much for checking out my video. Leave me a like, leave me a comment, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'm really hoping to hit 20,000 by the end of the year. I don't know if that's ambitious, but that is kind of what I'm going for. So thank you so much, and I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.